Someone's going to.
Morning, welcome everyone. We're going to wait just a minute longer to let people join. We love having questions, so please use the Q&A feature to throw those out at us. It's great seeing so many familiar names on here.
Feels like we need some background music or something, Bill. Have to work on that.
Barry's volunteering to sing. That'd help.
All right. Aaron, if you could unmute Barry, that'd be perfect. Just joking.
Yes, Barry, that would be way too dangerous. All right, I think we've given people a good opportunity to join us. Welcome. We're here to talk about iManage, hybrid operations, digital transformation, all of the issues and challenges that we're tackling day in and day out. I'm Bill Bice. I'm the CEO of InQ Zebraworks. I'm here with Ken Bassam, who is our Chief Revenue Officer, and Phil Hewson, who is our Director of Product Design out of our London office. Welcome, gents.
Thanks, Bill. Nice to be with you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, very good to be here today.
It's good to have you. So let's do a little context with some history just to show how we got here. So InQ was started in 2003, and the purpose was to bring embedded technology into legal. We call it apps today, but we were the first to build apps inside multifunction devices. That we built a really great cost recovery business out of doing that. That led in 2009 to the merger with Billback, and as part of doing that, we integrated with every kind of scanning application that firms were using, and we learned a ton from that. We learned how to do it better, and so in 2011 we launched our own scanning, and then really took that to another level in 2018 with the introduction of Qs, which put workflow around the digitization process. We're already, right in the central element of helping firms with their digital transformation. This just added a whole nother level to that. We then merged with Zebraworks in 2020, which is how you get to InQ Zebraworks. We just have a incredible team of legal technology professionals that has come from bringing these two companies together. And one of the first results of that was the launch of our 6th generation scanning platform, ScanQ, in 21. Part of what we did with that was completely redo our integration with iManage. So, Phil, you are the iManage expert. So tell us why that's important.
Yeah, so the previous way that we integrated with iManage was obviously through their COM library, and that's just that was fine for communicating with their on-premise software. But of course, iManage is drastically moving people to the cloud. The cloud is the future, and obviously, iManage needed a new way for companies like ours to integrate with them, and that was via their REST API or what they call their universal API. So we've been adopting that inside ScanQ for all of our scanning integration. That allows us to communicate over REST and secure protocols, including more secure authentication, not using impersonation, but using a more standardized OAuth library to be able to communicate with iManage both on-prem and in the cloud. So that's what we've been busy doing. And we're now, as you can see, in the iManage partner portal listed as a universal app, which means we're certified as using their universal API.
And it's not just better from a security standpoint, like we see a ton of performance improvements from using the universal API too.
Yeah, absolutely. So the COM library, COM is slower than REST, obviously, but also you needed to make multiple calls via COM to say, for example, get all the work folders within a workspace. But with the REST API, we can make one call and get the whole tree back in one go. So there's a lot of efficiency gains in that as well. And for those clients that are in the cloud, we saw huge performance improvements over using this REST API than using their older sort of COM to REST interface that they deployed previously. So this is a huge advantage, yeah.
Yeah, and our clients have loved the move to this. We actually still support the prior method. So as you're doing the transition, you can run both at the same time if you're doing like office by office transition, for example.
That's exactly right. Yes, and there is an extra process that people have to do to now authorize our app to connect to iManage under their account. That is part of the new security. So being able to stick with COM just for a little bit longer if you're still on-prem as you transition to their REST and universal API and move to the cloud is a huge advantage. So we're taking clients on that journey.
And this is going to become a pressing issue because iManage is really pushing to end of life the old COM integration, and so everything you have that relies on that is going to have to be updated. And we just had a question of is iManage going to be on-prem and cloud, or is it going 100% cloud? And I think their strategy is kind of interesting.
No, I believe that they said they're always going to support on-prem. They're very proud of that, but they're bringing the platforms together. So they're practically identical in terms of the feature set and the way that you integrate, and that's important for vendors like ourselves. It makes things a lot easier and a lot more supportable from a client's perspective as well.
Yeah, from our perspective, it doesn't matter whether it's on-prem or in the cloud. The integration works exactly the same, which is awesome.
Correct. And there's a few clients out there that are actually running both, and they do that for a purpose. For their clients and allow them to put documents in the cloud. They prefer to keep those workspaces in the cloud, and then they may have an on-premise system and database for the most confidential clients that are not happy for their documents to be stored in the cloud yet.
So Ken, let's move on and talk a little bit about the big picture here. So the thing that was really timely about introducing queues is that turned out to be the perfect platform to deal with the issues that came from the pandemic. There, wouldn't wish this on anybody, this shared experience that we've had, but there have been silver linings. There have been positive changes that have occurred in the legal industry because of what we've had to deal with the pandemic. And now, whether you consider this positive or not, we have to deal with the new reality of hybrid operations. And so what we've done is leverage queues in order to build a workflow that is really device agnostic. It doesn't matter whether you're in the office and using an MFD, or you're at home and using a desktop scanner, or if you pushed out desktop scanners at the work group level, or you're on site at a client's office and you just need to capture a document using your mobile device. Now, all of those sources of documents go into the same workflow, the same process. They all get treated with the firm's same security protocol. And you can still do what you've always done, which is scan directly into the DMS or the accounting system. But by leveraging queues, we can put workflow process around that. And we're going to put some depth into the advantages of doing exactly that. And one of them is the digital mailroom. So MailQ is a workflow built on top of ScanQ that addresses this problem of what do we do with the physical mail, given the fact that we don't know on any given day where a particular attorney or staff person is going to be. And frankly, this is what I meant by silver lining, because this is a better way to do it. This is like the final step in your digital transformation, because things are either coming in digitally to start with, or we can now capture this last piece of the physical files, of the physical mail that's coming in. Let's digitize it the moment it shows up and pull it into the same workflow. And the benefit for the attorney is great, because it doesn't matter where you're at. You immediately get that scanned document the moment it comes in, even before it gets profiled or OCR'd or otherwise applied. You get instant access to it. Another really big benefit of going to digital around this is what we can do with shared queues, which allows us to add a whole nother level of workflow around this. So now, instead of sending it to a specific recipient, we can have an accounting queue or a docketing queue or a queue for a large matter. And Ken, you were going to throw some deep insight in there that I've missed.
Well, it's me, so it's probably not that deep, but just probably something you taught me. But as we started rolling out MailQ, what was really interesting and the benefit of queues was how differently each firm did it, right? And not even each firm, but then each firm's office. And a lot of it pertained to the person that was scanning and how deep their expertise was as far as what certain documents should go to certain places. So digital mail, what's nice about queues is you can just hit one button and it goes into the appropriate queue. And shared queue is a great example of that, because I don't have to know where it needs to go, even if it needs to go into the accounting system, but I don't know that for sure. Or if it needs to go directly into iManage, but I don't know that for sure. We built in this step that allows it to get to the right group of people. And then from there, they can take it and add their kind of subject matter expertise to get it to the right place.
Yeah, it gives us tons of flexibility in matching the workflow that matters in your firm. And yeah, and it has been incredible how much variation there is just within a given firm. You see a lot of differences between the US and the UK. See differences just between different offices, even in the same country. And so you need the flexibility to be able to handle all that.
I think some of our initial conversations were like, how hard can it be? You know, every firm pushes a mail cart down the hall and hands it to the person that it's addressed to. But when you make that process digital, the one thing that we've learned is flexibility is literally the only way to do it. You have to remain flexible, because firms are unique in how they distribute mail. We've become experts in.
Yeah, so we ought to actually show some stuff. So you want to dive in a bit?
Yeah,
Ken?
it's my turn, right? Okay, cool. Let's do that. So we're going to start out just a little bit differently. I wanted to go back to the beginning a little bit. So if you walk up to the MFD, because Bill had mentioned that we're capture agnostic, but that doesn't mean that we did away with anything that we had previously. So we still embed directly into the device. You can come through and choose where you want these things to go. Of course, one of these could just be directly to iManage. We'll talk a little bit about more about that. And in fact, we'll give an example of that. In fact, if I wanted to go directly to iManage from the MFD, I can just click that. It already knows who I am. I'm Phil today, apparently. So it pulls over my workspaces and recents and favorite items and allows me to do different things from within that. Again, at the MFD, you have the same options, so you can continue to build out this document or continue to just move it on. So you still have all those options. In fact, you can go to email if that's most appropriate, or go to iManage if it's most appropriate. But the process that we built in was an option, and you saw it say scan queue, is just to walk up and do a click of a button and have it directly flow into queues. And so I've switched people. Now I'm Kelly, but as I come in here, what you can see is I'm in my queue, and I can come through and see literally anything that's been scanned. So anything that's been scanned for either myself or for anybody for whom I'm a delegate. So if I have multiple people that I need to monitor the things that are being scanned, because they're ultimately maybe not going to do anything with them, but as Bill mentioned, they want to know about what's been scanned immediately, then it can feed directly into this view. So you get a, kind of a thumbnail sketch of the document, and just some basic information, such as the document name and the categories and tags, which I'll explain in a second, and who it was created by, and how long it's going to actually be here, because we don't want it here long. This is a temporary holding spot to just deliver the documents to the right people before we make the decision of ultimately where we want them to be. And so within that, I could come through and just say, I only want to see my things, and I only want to see mail. Categories and tags are firm definable, and they're dynamically created by what the category or tag somebody's given it. So my temporary inbox here will have only the categories representing the documents that are in my view. So you can have hundreds of categories if that made sense to do, and you're only going to see the ones that pertain to what's actually in your view here within Command Center and within queues. So from within that, I can see exactly, I just want to filter down to tags only mail, and I can't see that. So maybe I want to get a deeper view. So I just pull up and I get the full document at this point, and I've got a few different options that are available to me here. So you can always go and route the document, which we'll certainly look at. If you say, hey, I don't know what to do with this, I'm going to reassign it to somebody else, you have that option. If you don't want it, you could delete it, assuming that you have security rights to do so, and then come in and create your own tag and document name and things like this. So it just gives you a little control over the process. And again, kind of alleviates having to do all of that either at the point of scan, regardless of who you are, or just at the MFD. So you can just hit it real quickly, then get back here and make the decisions that are necessary. Now, as a part of this as well, you can come through and edit the document. So before you put it into iManage, or before you reassign it to somebody and you want to enter a note, we've built in all Adobe style type PDF editing directly into this process, not necessarily to replace any tool that you know and love and use today. But if you do need to make an edit at this point, prior to assigning it or sending it somewhere else, you have that ability, so you don't have to do it later. And there's tons of different options, which we won't get into all of those. But if you needed to redact something before it goes into iManage, you could certainly do that. Or if for some reason you're sending it outside of the firm and you needed to do that as well, you have those options. Now, I had all the exact same options. In fact, if I don't know what I want to do with the document quite yet, I can just go back to my queue, and it's obviously going to stay here for however many days that before it gets purged, that I get notifications for and all sorts of things like this. But for today's purposes, we're going to actually route the document, or route the document, depending on where you're from. And so I just come through here and I'll see which workflows are available to me. Again, these are completely firm definable. You can make this list as big as you find productive for as many different places as you would like this to go. Obviously, for today's purposes, we're going to focus on the iManage piece. So you'll see over here to the left, there's basically routing instructions. So choose the workflow that you'd like, and I'm going to use iManage. At this point, it comes through and says, these are all my favorites. Again, we're coming from my queue, so it knows who I am, the matters work list, obviously my matters, and then ultimately allows you to search workspaces if that's the best way to go. You can choose exactly what you want. You have some basic options from this point. So if you needed to change the description prior to going into iManage, you could. And then just a couple of notifications on success or failure. Once I choose route, it comes back into, or actually it's in iManage at this point. What I came back into is something that makes this entire process completely different from email, right? So if I scan something to email, we can get it to iManage from email. They've got excellent tools for that. This gives us a little bit more oversight to know exactly what's happening with our scans, who scanned it, who it was sent to, did they reassign it to anybody, did they edit the document, what's happened with this document. So we've got two use cases for this. From an administrative standpoint, you can come in, or even from the mailroom standpoint, come in and actually see that something's been done with this. And you don't have to go into each individual one. There's administrative views, which we'll talk about, that would give you this type of information. But ultimately, as well, if we routed that document to iManage, you can come through here and you'll see that it was routed, and you can open the document itself. So, and Phil, do you want to talk just a little bit about how we're connecting or attaching to that document?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we track all, as Ken said, all of the information, the entire audit history of the document. But one of the key things that we do track is where that document ended up. And in the case of iManage, that's obviously the server, the database, and the document ID, the folder, or the document class and subclass. All of that information is stored within our database against that document ID, which then allows us to create an NRL link using the iManage API. So if you did click that open link there, you would actually get asked to open that NRL link, which then forces the iManage desktop client to open that document within the DMS itself. So you're going straight to the document in the DMS. That's no longer the document that we held temporarily while it was being processed. So yeah, it's a direct link in there to the iManage DMS.
What's great about that is if you're an attorney looking at your queue and somebody else is profiling documents on your behalf, it doesn't matter where you're at in that process. You click on the document and it's going to come up, whether it's still in our temporary repository or whether it's already been profiled in iManage. Doesn't matter to the attorney; they just get quick access to the document. We've had some great questions come in. So Phil, do you want to talk for a minute about how we do OCR and saving these documents in PDF format?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the benefits of queues itself actually is that the OCR is done in the background. So the moment that the scan is complete and it hits our system, it's available for you to view in that viewer inside queues. While we're OCRing it in the background. Once it's OCR, then obviously you do lots of cool things like highlighting the text and redacting it, etc. You can still do some of those things, but the OCR makes that a lot easier. We actually can convert to a number of different PDF formats, and we can convert to Microsoft Word docx as well. So we have a full OCR engine built into the product there.
And what's key about that is you have that use case of somebody in the office is scanning a critical document for an attorney. They're on the way to court or to the client, and they get access to it the moment it's scanned. We don't have to wait for anything to get processed.
Yeah, and that's a good differentiator. For example, between what we do with queues and solutions that are scanning just to email or even direct into iManage. That they'd have to go through that OCR process before it would end up in the inbox or inside iManage. And we can give them direct access to that while the OCR happens in the background, so they can view the content of that document. So it is a huge advantage.
And we really want things that are matter related to end up in iManage, but there are some real challenges with just scanning directly to iManage, and that's one of them, because you scan into iManage and then you end up, sending an email to the attorney to point them to the link, and it just becomes this, this process that's too difficult compared to what it should be. And there's other challenges with going directly to iManage. I mean, you often talk about the security issues that come with doing that. Yeah,
I mean, the team that are doing your scanning, especially for inbound mail, the facilities team, and they don't always have access to iManage, and they certainly don't have access to confidential workspaces. So what you end up doing is creating sort of mailboxes within personal workspaces in iManage that team can scan into, and then of course it's the onus is on the person who is looking at that folder to know a document's gone in there. So you've got to deal with the notification issue, which our system deals with automatically. And then they've got to do refiling within the DMS. And of course, there's challenges with that too for anybody who knows about iManage refiling. If you don't refile it correctly, it maintains the metadata of its original scanned location. So it's, it's really important that we kind of try to avoid those scenarios, because it makes documents difficult to find, or documents end up in workspaces with different metadata.
Another great question about, we were looking at the embedded application on MFD a few minutes ago. How consistent is that, Phil, across different devices? Yeah,
I think this is one of the things that we're really proud of, that we are consistent across all of the embedded devices that we support. Our interface is identical, and that's not always easy to achieve, but because there's different frameworks involved, from Java to Android to web-based technology. So, but we're very proud of the fact that our interface is consistent across all of those devices, and that's really important for anybody that has a mixed fleet, either in one office, or where one office has say Canon and another has Xerox. There's no retraining to be done within our own interface. And for the scan technology, within there, we drive that scanner directly. We don't have to drop you out into the native scan application to begin your scan. So the scanning experience is also consistent across all of those devices, and that's really important.
And I'm sure this wasn't by accident, Phil, but we've carried that consistency over to queues. So regardless of how you capture a document, whether you're at the MFD or on your iOS device, or if you're at home with your desktop scanner, it's always going to land in queues and give the end user the exact same queues experience that they would get regardless of where they are or how the document was captured. I love it when you guys talk, because it reminds me of everything I forgot to go over as we're looking at these screens. But I always highlight over how how easy the search is. If you're a little busier than having 2 documents within your queue, there's tons of filters and search that you can find these things. The other thing that we hear sometimes is, one of the reasons that we like to scan to mail is because mail's private, right? So you scan it to mail and it's my inbox. I don't give anybody else access to my inbox, and that gives me a certain comfort, or whichever. What's nice is you can flag any of these things. We've only highlighted mail queue and scan queue and these things. Firms can define as many different queues as makes sense. We did talk a little bit about shared queues, but one of those queues could be private. So if you mark anything with a category of private, then it removes your delegates from being able to access, see, or do anything with that document until you recategorize it or reassign it or something of that nature. So it gives you a little bit of the best of both worlds, which is you can have the privacy, but you can also, without exposing your entire inbox to your legal assistant or whoever helps you with this stuff, you can just expose the things that haven't been marked as private. Then there's all sorts of statuses as well. And as Phil was talking, if you just wanted to see things that were routed, you could just highlight that, be able to filter down by that, and quickly access those documents.
Yeah, in fact, we didn't talk about delegates much at all, but being able to delegate rights to your queue so that somebody else can process the documents on your behalf, I think is really important. But we've gone one step further than that. We delegate all of the things that you can do with the documents in that queue as well. So you can prevent somebody from doing redactions on your documents, or highlighting, or annotating, or routing, or even reassigning on your behalf. Maybe you just want to give them access to view those documents. So anything that is a permission for the user for documents on their queues is also a permission they can delegate or not delegate. So it's very granular, and gives lots and lots of options.
Yeah, and that's super important. And whether you want to tag it as security or tag it as preference, right, for what we want people doing, sometimes it's just easier to remove those types of things. So I love that you took it to that granular level and just provided so many options. And we talked about that earlier, but even at the OCR, if there's certain things you never OCR, you can set that by document type. I mean, tons and tons of preferences on the back end that be happy to go into, not today, but at some other point if you have questions on those. So we spent a lot of time talking about queues. Hopefully we've convinced you all that it's a great way to go about it. The number one objection to queues is that I don't want my attorneys to have to go to another place, right? The reason that mail is so convenient is because they're already in mail, they're already on their device, they're already, logged in wherever they're at home or whatever. So how can you do that, right? So we don't want another attorney desktop because Microsoft's already captured the attorney desktop, which is called Outlook. So just recently, Phil and his team and a bunch of awesome people did just that. So they said, give me the queues experience, but give it to me where my attorneys are. And so we've built queues directly into Outlook, and I'll explain a little bit about what that means. So anytime, whether you're using the Outlook add-in or functionality, and we'll talk about the type of add-in as well. We've continued the theme of not doing COM add-ins, but whether you're using the Outlook integration or whether you're in queues, you always get a desktop notification. You can get an email notification. So in a way, the attorney's always been able to say, oh, something's in my queue. I can click the link and go pull open the document. What this does, however, is make it to where you never have to leave Outlook, should that be your preference. So our system's smart enough when you get this scan queue notification, you'll notice there's no attachment. So we didn't send it via email. We don't have to worry about clogging Exchange or any of that stuff. So a lot of IT folks have said that they like that option, right? So it is an email, but it's not with all the attachments and things. That's all behind the firm's infrastructure, so it can just stay behind all the security that you've put in place. But we will identify this and know that it's in a queue. Upon doing that, you have this add-in over here to the right, and it will show you anything that's been scanned for you, right? So whether it was the mail queue or just a scanned document, again, the type of document, the category of the document, and you can come through and say, hey, that's interesting. I want to take a look at that and get a preview of the document. And this will give you the more information, so the tags and who it was created by and so forth. Or within Outlook, you just want to pull open the document itself and say, show me what I'm looking at. Then you have that ability. And we never left the place that we find most of the attorneys and users actually work. And so I'll break for a second, Phil, and you can say, or Bill, all the smart stuff around that. But that's how the user experience works.
Yeah, so
Talk about the type of add-in that it is.
Call it a universal app also, because I was about to say universal again, but and I mean in that context that it works in Outlook on your desktop, in the web, on your iPhone, on your iPad, and so you can get your queues anywhere that you're running Outlook. Yeah,
that's right. It's a JavaScript add-in using the latest Microsoft technology rather than COM. So it's very lightweight, and as you say, yes, that works in Outlook for the web and the desktop experience, including mobile. So yeah.
Yeah, and I'll just add at this point, kind of in the first release and done completely on purpose, is a read-only view from within here. So when we talk about editing and taking it to iManage and those types of things, because the document doesn't physically exist in Outlook, I would have to click the link to go do the things that we've been talking about so far. Maybe we get there at some point, maybe we don't. So far, most of the feedback that we've gotten is just get them the fact that the document was scanned immediately so they can pull it up on their phone, pull it up within Outlook, and to see all the type of information about it, and then make a decision to decide what to do with it. It's very easy to just click the link and then go reassign or route or any of those things. Again, the delegate process, my delegate would get this exact same view, right? So if they're in queues, they're going to get it there. If they're in their Outlook and we've set them up for notifications, they would also get it there. So you know that regardless, they can just click on that and then go do all the other preferences we looked at earlier.
Yeah, we had a question earlier that I was waiting for to get to this point to talk about, which is do we have queues in the mobile app? And our choice is actually to put queues into the mobile Outlook app, because everybody's already already running that, and that's the place that that attorneys and staff most wanted. What we're working on next after that is showing queues through in Teams, because that's the next most requested place to be able to see your queue, and then that's going to also enable us to add more functionality in the iOS app, which we're gonna show off here in just a second.
Yeah, I didn't. How did you know we're going to the iOS next? That's great. Excellent segue. So we talked about capture agnostic. We looked at the MFD, right? We'll look next at our iOS app. So we'll cruise through this, and then any other technical information that they want to clean me up on would be great. So as I come through, the question before it gets asked, Android's around the corner. Right now, we only support iOS, so I will tell you that. But on your device, you can quickly come through. Click on the icon, right? The app itself. Any access control system the firm's currently using, we can support. So you can come through, or most any. We haven't ran into one that we can't, but you could come through and choose exactly what you want to do. If I were, on the move or at a client side or at home or wherever that I might be, and this document I ultimately want to get into iManage, I can capture the document from here. Just using some of the native editing that comes through, you can see the preview of the document. At this point, the exact same experience. So name the document, put in a tag and a category. Obviously, if it's private, or if you want to put a different tag in there of exactly what it is, you can. And then it just uploads to ScanQ. So instead of going directly somewhere else, it's going to go back to the exact same queues experience that we've been talking about. What's nice is whoever's queue it goes to, right, to my personal queue and to the delegates, they're going to get an immediate notification, as we talked about earlier, that document exists, that I just captured it on my device and I've submitted it to queues. So you get the desktop notification, the email notification, however you've set it up, while it's processing on the back end, as far as all the OCR capabilities we talked about and things like this. So I shouldn't have left it so long on the submission slide. It doesn't take that long. I just forgot to move forward. So at this point, you'll see that it's already up. It's been tagged as important and other, and aptly named document name. So we might want to change that. But then after you've captured it, you'll see that the document that you took a picture of is showing up here within our queues. And I won't go through all the other options, but it is an identical user interface of all the options that are available. The other nice thing too is if we've gotten something on our phone, we know that it needs to get to iManage. We didn't have to take a picture of it. We've just gotten it electronically. I can come through and say, hey, I need somebody to do something with this. All I have to do is say open in. You can choose the app that you need to open it in, which in this case would be NQ Zebraworks. Again, default names, tags, and categories. We'll start to get it here in a second. I think I've said that enough times. Hit send, and then it ends up back in queues. Anything, I'll back up one. Anything, Phil or Mr. Beisch, you would like to add?
So there's a question of, well, why use this as opposed to some random third-party scanning app? And the reason is twofold. One is this automatically cleans up after itself, so you don't end up with these documents sitting on personal devices all over the place. And two is it immediately puts the document behind the firm's firewall, so it doesn't stay at rest anywhere outside the firm's security protocols. And we just had a question exactly on this line, which is how do we do this? And so we leverage our Zebraworks platform with the Zebraworks bridge, which typically you'd run that inside the DMZ and the firm. So we're going to get a little bit technical here, but you're whitelisting to an IP address to get to Command Center running inside the firm. Then you're whitelisting to Zebraworks, which is running in Azure in the cloud. And so it gives us a very secure way to make that connection and pull that document in and not leave this stuff just sitting out wherever. And then really the bigger problem is that people are going to do this anyway, and much better to do it within the firm's infrastructure, within the firm's security protocols, and actually get the standard workflows applied to it. I mean, this is the thing you often talk about, Ken, of let's take the discipline of iManage and let's apply it and extend it to the reality of hybrid that we're all living in now.
Yeah, to the paper document. I thought you were going to throw me under the bus on that. When I first started demonstrating this app, I would show how you could also capture it using notes on your iOS device. And I was demoing this to this firm, and they said, "Is that your wife's W-2?" And it was in my notes field that I captured at some point to submit to someone, and I never deleted it. And it was just a great example of how that happens. And I'm sure other people are more disciplined than I am, but I have a sneaking suspicion that some people might capture, do what they meant to do with it, and then it lives on there. That was from 2018, and it lives on the device for forever. So the cleanup part has been super well received, that I can come through and capture the document, but then know that it's not going to live on that device. As soon as you can do, which is just hitting send, get it to queues, then it removes it from the device and all that other technical stuff Bill said. So speaking of, go ahead.
Well, I was going to transition to the next piece about desktop scanners, but if you have something else about the app,
that's all I was going to say. Why don't you take it over?
Well, because we want to do the same thing for desktop scanners. I mean, I remember having this conversation with a firm that was like, well, I was asking, how are you managing the fact that people are going to be scanning at home? And the response is, well, we don't allow it, which I don't think is terribly realistic. Much better option to enable people to be able to do the work they need to do. But it's the same exact problem. We need this to happen within the firm's infrastructure. And so by supporting desktop scanners, whether it's at the work group level in the office or whether it's at home with whatever random scanner you happen to have there, we can set those up so that scanner simply captures the document, sends it to a directory. The little helper app we have that gives you the notifications every time that you get a scan can also monitor that folder, pick up the document, put it into your queue, apply the same workflows to it, and clean up after itself so that we don't end up with those documents sitting on local hard drives all over the place. And so it doesn't matter where we capture the document, we always end up in the same place. It's right here in your queue.
Awesome. So we talked a little bit about this as well, but we talked about the activity stream, which is another kind of differentiator from the email side, so that we know what's going on. And in fact, we have, we're working with one firm, and they actually prefer the activity stream to be the first view that you get, so that instead of going through queues and seeing all your scans and things, knowing that I'm never going to do anything with that, just show me the view and what's actually happened to that. But at one step further than that, or one step beyond that, if you will, we've got firm definable dashboard reporting around everything that we did today as well. So we're always kind of watching what's going on. Again, these are firm definable. We've got some standards, and the thing about standards is that usually people want to change those. So we built in the tools that allow you to do that, so that you can report on and show what's most important to you. But you can see as you come through and see how many scans came in. Obviously pretty low volume here with 6 and 8, but you get the general idea. What's in personal queues, right? So for the different individuals, what's come across, what's within that. Any of the shared queues, just get a complete document count from as far as that goes, and then even sort it by tags. How many things that are coming in that are private, how many things that are coming in that are considered accounting or pleadings, or however that you've utilized the tag functionality within that. And these are just scratching the surface of the types of examples of data that you can get. And Phil, I always love your take on this, probably because you brought the tool in and know it as well as anybody. What did I miss?
I think you covered it all. I mean, we didn't just build in a dashboard viewer in here. There's the whole designer in there. So these are things that you can create on the fly. It's a very easy to use tool. It's drag and drop. And yeah, you can slice and dice this data however you want. It's a very powerful tool. So incredibly flexible.
Yeah, and there can be administrative dashboards, but there can also be individual dashboards, right? That are comprised of all the exact same security, the granular security that we discussed earlier, which is, I don't want them to be able to see everything across the firm. I just want them to know what's important to them so they can come through and grab and kind of see this information as well.
Correct. Yeah, we support personal dashboards that limit the data just to their own. So yeah, absolutely.
And we were looking at the activity stream before, which shows you your audit trail, so you can see everything that's happened with the document, everything that's happened in somebody's queue, and then you add the dashboards to that, so you can see the big picture. What all of this does is gives you the oversight to see what's happening in your digitization process as a whole. So it's another benefit when we talk, specifically about digital mailroom, for example. It's another benefit of putting workflow around the digital mailroom versus if you just scan directly to email for your physical mail, you don't really know what happens to those documents.
Makes sense.
So we're back to the big picture here in the overall view of what we do. That we've had great questions today, which really appreciate that. It makes this a lot more fun to do. Anything you want to do to wrap this up, Ken?
No, I mean, I'll just, as we talked about it, I think this example illustrates everything that we just looked at. And so it is important just to kind of remember as we leave, regardless of how we want to capture the document and how we want to get it directly to the DMS, we can continue to do that, right? So if that's working for a firm and that's the best way to do it, let's just do it embedded, make it easy, give all the options and have the best OCR and everything like that, and get that over to the DMS because we have the people scanning that know exactly where that it should go. Another option that you have, and one that we're quite fond of, right, is to just go to your queue, whether it's directly to the recipient or I don't know who it should go to. So it just goes to a shared queue where a whole group of accounting folks are going to pick it up, or a whole different group of people, probably come up with another example one of these days, could pick that up and then decide where that goes. And then the thing that we need to figure out a way to represent is in addition to the queue, it just goes to your inbox, right? So to your email inbox, and so that you can see the document, decide if there's anything that is urgent, anything that's immediate that needs to happen with it, and whether that's you or somebody you've delegated to do those things on your behalf, you're going to get the exact same user experience and the exact same kind of interface across the board. The other thing that I would add, and it's a good reminder of what to throw in here when we had the question about the iOS functionality, is that there is a diagram at the website that shows exactly how that how the technical aspects of the Zebraworks platform work with that. So we'll pull that in the future to be able to have that and go over. But if anybody's interested, you can certainly find that at the website as well.
So Phil, how long have we been integrating with iManage now?
Oh heck, that's a really good question. I think we did.
It's been around so long that I remember writing integration with iManage 20 years ago, 25 years ago.
Yeah, I think our first integration with iManage was in print, so that we could eliminate, the need to do cost recovery when you're printing a document from iManage, and that was many years ago. And in fact, I believe at the time iManage was using ODMA, so that's how long ago that was. Yeah, it wasn't a great integration at that point. Yeah, for scan since the beginning, really. Our very first info route product we built, the first DMS we integrated with was iManage. So yeah, we've been doing it for a long time, and we've just been innovating on top of that. So our first iteration of our scan product, of course, was built on top of cost recovery. So you entered the client and matter first, and then we went and found the workspace. But now we're logging you in as yourself, and we're able to give you that view of your iManage desktop from within all of our interfaces, including your recent workspaces and your favorite workspaces, and even subscriptions now as well we've included. So if for those users that don't maintain their own Matter work lists, they subscribe to other people's Matter work lists, we can now give them the ability to switch to those and view those. So that's another addition that we've just added. Yep.
Yeah, we just have an incredible amount of experience with iManage, and the partnership with iManage just keeps getting better and better. And I know you've personally done a ton of work with iManage.
I'm iManage certified. Yeah, I did. Unfortunately, I haven't kept it up to date. I did 8.5, but yeah, I'm an iManage certified engineer. So it's been really helpful for me to understand that product inside and out. So yeah, and we now do the same thing with some of our developers as well for putting them through certifications. So yeah.
So we have a question on audit history and reporting built into queues, which we're really doing via the dashboards.
We're doing it through the dashboards, plus also through the activity stream. Yeah, everything that happens with that document is logged. It's and then viewable within that activity stream. You only saw in the screenshot there the summary information, but there was actually a small drop down. If you drop that down, it gives you the full audit trail for that document. And then on the back end for the administrators, there's a monitoring page. We actually call it the monitoring page, where you can see every activity that happens on the document, including its processing through our OCR engine. So you can see exactly how long each page within there took to process and to generate the output file. So you get very detailed information inside our system for every activity.
And then we've got another question that's very timely, which is there an API that firms can use to integrate other technology pieces in with ScanQ?
Yeah, and obviously, as you know, we've had some conversation around this just in the last few days. I mean, our entire system is built on top of APIs. Everything is an API, including all of the screens that you saw inside our embedded application. They're all delivered from the server to the device via an API, and then rendered by form rendering technology, if you like, which means that whenever we change anything, in terms of adding new fields or dynamically generating fields, there's no new software to push out to the device, and that's really important. Those APIs, however, are fairly internal, and we think we want to publish an actual public API for clients to do much more with our system, like, for example, creating their own scan to here type functionality within whichever system they want. They should be able to push data into us and generate that scan instruction. So we will be doing some more work in that area very shortly, and working on a public API.
Yeah, and the reason we want to do it that way is because then we can have a supported API that doesn't change on you, right? So everything's API driven today, but much better for us to create the public version of that. And it's been it's really interesting because it's been a common request in just the last few months. It's suddenly been a common topic of conversation. So we're now working on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And our security is very good and very tight within all of our APIs today. There's a lot of our APIs you can't call unless you're a registered client. So we probably want to do some work in terms of different ways that you can authenticate and then call those public APIs, because they're not necessarily coming from a piece of our software. They would be coming from from perhaps directly from a user application. So there's got to be some work that we do there with regards to security on those APIs.
what I'm excited about that is the way that we develop ScanQ is it really is a platform, and so it gives us the ability to create functionality like that. And every firm has the unique requirements and pieces that you need to be able to integrate in. I believe integration is the key ingredient that the firms need in order to really make the investment in legal technology truly pay off. So we have another question, which is, what's the competition doing relative to this idea of queues? So what are the alternatives look like, Ken?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people doing these types of things. The one that we probably run into most often, I'm not familiar with anybody that's developed like the queue concept to the level that we have. Most frequently, it's just going directly to the destination, so the accounting system, or to an Outlook inbox, or to a DMS. Especially when you tack on the iOS functionality as well as the Outlook, exposing it through into Outlook. I'm not intimately familiar with everybody's roadmap and all of those things, so you never know what tomorrow could bring. But oftentimes we don't run into different types of queues, and that's why we spend so much time explaining what queues are, because it is at least initially unique to our solution.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of different digital mailroom solutions out there as an example, but and some of them even based in the cloud, but they're not legal specific and they're not DMS integrated. They're the sort of solutions where they hold a sort of virtual inbox that your mail ends up in. You get an email notification, and then you're expected to download that PDF and do whatever you need to do with it. So there's additional manual steps, and that's just, it's just not ideal. So that's probably the closest that we see out there. And there's a number of them.
And of course, we're talking to firms every day, and it's not that we're inventing this stuff, or I'm going to say we're not particularly brilliant. I think we are really smart, but the ideas come from collaborating with our clients. In fact, the idea of queues came from one of our clients that talks about, there's stand-up activities and there's sit-down activities, and a lot of the more in-depth work around workflow really should be a sit-down activity. And the way to make that happen was to create this workflow capability around queues. So it was a really great idea that came in collaboration with our clients. It's what always pushes our products forward. And in talking to clients all the time, there hasn't been any sort of obvious alternative for this approach. So if this way of applying workflow to digitization and using that to power your firm's digital transformation is appealing to you, I think we have a really amazing set of tools to apply to that, which is why I get so excited about talking about this and sitting down with firms and putting it to work. And somebody else replied that nobody else does queues, and that's coming from someone who knows this area quite well. A question about integrating with SharePoint, which we keep looking at. So it's actually pretty easy for us to integrate with SharePoint. We don't support that today. The challenge with SharePoint is that it's really a custom implementation sort of every time. And so if you have a specific use of that, the closest we have come so far is case management systems that use SharePoint, because that gives us a specific structure, or a DMS system that runs on SharePoint gives us a specific structure to work with. And so we're really just looking for specific project to push us over the line for that. So I don't have any doubt that we're going to need to cross that line and actually do the integration with SharePoint. And in fact, Barry just made exactly that point. You know, that is absolutely the challenge with SharePoint. Is it's just you know, SharePoint isn't a system; it's more of a, you know, custom development platform.
We have the paid version of Zoom, Bill. Otherwise, it's going to cut us off in a minute. Just joking. Like the free version.
I think that would have happened in 45 minutes, but the timing is perfect, and love all the interaction and the questions. Thank you very much for that and for joining us and spending this time with us. Thanks, Ken and Phil, for making this more fun than just listening to me. And let's finish this off.
All right, sounds good. Thank you for thanks for everybody's time. It's always a pleasure to be able to come out and talk about something we're passionate about and that we like. If you need to see anything in more detail, or if there's questions that came up after we hang up, which is often the case, please reach out. We'd be happy to go into deeper dive demos. We can always pull Phil or Bill in if we need the technical aspect. And we've actually got a ton of other employees that can help with those aspects as well. But really appreciate everybody's time and going through this and spending an hour with us.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great day.